Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Quiltville. I'm in the basement with Sadie Jane, who's taking a nap on the floor, just on the other side of the machines. So if you hear any doggy snoring going on today, that's likely what's happening. We had a adventurous walk this morning. As I walk Sadie on her leash, we are often joined by neighbor dog Piper. We hashtag her Piper at large because she gets out of her fence and when she sees us come by and will join us for our walk and then go home. And we visited Chip next door, who is in the chain link fence and, you know, visiting those jailbirds. The poor dogs wanted to play with each other, but he was behind the fence. So she's pooped out. I'm a bit pooped out, but I see you're here and I'm really excited today for some Quilt-Cam. What am I working on? Yet another string project. In fact, I've got two in the works. You know, my next book release is in progress. Manuscript was dropped off by just after Christmas time, and they're working on it hard and heavy. I've had some stuff come back and forth already, and I am planning on having some other string projects ready too, as either a complimentary digital download when you purchase the book from my website, or as something that you can make along, because let's face it, how many of you have just bits and bobs and bins of stuff like this? You know, leftover half a 4-patch, cut off triangles from various projects, something that's just really too short to be considered a strip to be saved. Anything that's less than 1.5 inches goes into this kind of stuff. And while I have big string bins for longer stuff like this would be something that would go in the longer string bin, but I pulled this because I like it. The little stuff, this is the kind of stuff that quite a few people stick into dog beds. And something about the dog beds, they're a one-time use. They can't be washed. They get thrown away. And I would rather sew this $12 a yard fabric, some of it may have been $6.99 at the time it was purchased, into a quilt. The dogs don't care. I care. So I have more fun sewing with this. If you were to put me on a desert island with a trash bag full of leftover bits and pieces and parts and a stack of phone books, I'd be a happy girl. So that's what we're working on today. In fact, I have a very odd string block here that I'm getting ready to sew together. And I thought while I was sewing it, I could share with you how I web the top. I'm going to push that a little bit further out of the way so it's not in the camera, so that you can see how things are picked up and how I sew them together, because I don't want to get these units turned around. They already go every which direction, but in a specific direction. In fact, hang on just a second. I'm going to pick up the one off the floor. Behind me, I'm laying these out so you can see just what a crazy, crazy layout these are. This block, when it is twisted and turned, never becomes symmetrical. It takes off in all different directions, and you will never be able to make a nice, even star design or anything out of it. It's not meant to. It's supposed to be just crazy lightning streaks that go every which way. So I have to be careful which way I turn these, or I might end up with a design different than of what I have chosen. If this is your first time visiting me in the basement at Quiltville, I want to welcome you. Quilt-Cam is something that happens when I'm home and I have time. While I wish I could do Quilt-Cam from our cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains in southwestern Virginia, we are only on cellular data there. We can't even get internet there. As far as wired internet, there is no data up there. As far as can't do cable internet, can't do phone line internet, there's nothing. So I don't have enough signal strength to be able to get to do Quilt-Cam from my phone, but I can when I'm home, and I love to do this as often as we can. I love to see what you're working on. While I can't reach the comment section in Facebook Live where this is running right now, you can email me your photo and a little bit about yourself and your project to my email address at quiltville@gmail.com. And you can send those, and I will thumb through them and pick out as many as I can during about our hour span of time here and share those. Quilt-Cam stays available through YouTube. So even after we don't have it on Facebook anymore. It'll be pinned to the top of my Quiltville Facebook page until the next Quilt-Cam. But until, what was I going to say? Until the next Quilt-Cam, this one will be at the top of the Quiltville Facebook page. But after that, they can get way, 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 way down the feed. So you'll find the links to the previous Quilt-Cams on my blog under the Quilt-Cam tab, and we've got the archives of those. What will happen with this Quilt-Cam is it'll be embedded in tomorrow morning's blog post as I head off for Florida, and then it's always available in the archives. And I share several of the things that people share during Quilt-Cam, full photo size on that blog post along with this feed. So Quilt-Cam's just a fun thing that you can watch again and again and again and again, and I really enjoy our time here together. What I want to do here is tell you a little bit about this machine. This machine is a Singer 301. It's black. They're kind of coveted, but this one has the very funny name of Ugly Betty, which we changed to Black Betty because, you know, Ram-a-lam-a-lam, Black Betty, because she deserves to not be so ugly. But she's been used hard and put away wet because her paint's chipping up in places. The decals are about gone, but she hums like the wind. She was gifted to me by my friend Carol in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And it didn't have a foot pedal. It didn't have the pan underneath. It was missing the bobbin case. It was so piecemeal, I've put together this Franken machine with hopes of getting her up and running. And once we got her up and running, I just fell in love with her, and I love pulling her out to play with. The cabinet, however, came from an antique mall in Greensboro, North Carolina. I bought my two-tone 301 in the cabinet, but I can switch machines out because 301s have a special little cradle underneath that makes this very, very portable. I can just click the little lever that's in here, lift the machine out, and off to retreat I go. So it's very easily removed from the cabinet, unlike other machines where you have to undo the set screws and lift them out and they weigh 45 pounds. 301s only weigh about 14 pounds because they're aluminum bodies. Great machine. If you've been looking for a vintage machine and featherweights come at a very high price, look for a 301. I think you will really, really like it. What I've got here, these are my paper foundations. Phone book pages. I've got all kinds of little squares. I'm not giving any sizes because this will be a future pattern. Little squares of phone book paper. Why phone book paper? Because string blocks are very heavy, and I want to be able to remove the paper to eliminate that bulk. Removing the paper also allows me, if there's a seam, let's say the seam was too close to this corner, because the foundation is off, I can press that seam the other way and get it out of the way and eliminate more bulk. Every time I offer a class on string piecing and I say, bring your phone book, there's always somebody who says, can't I use dryer sheets? I've got some interfacing. Can't I use muslin? I've got some old bed sheets. And my answer is always, sure, bring what you want. But with blocks this small, with this many seams in them, you're not going to want a leave-in foundation. And the paper is so easy to remove that I would rather sit and remove paper and save any fabric or any money to purchase some other kind of fabric foundation for fabric that's going to show on the top of a project. Okay, so these little guys are half light, half dark, like half square triangles, which means you can twist and turn them in any direction that you want. In order to have this half light, half dark, what I have done is drawn a line. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that line? Yeah, sometimes we draw lines. I draw a line corner to corner on the foundation, and my first two strips are actually right sides together, and I like paper piecing where you sew on the line. I sew on the line on the back side of the paper first. Press the dark strip over, and then I can fill either side with what color I want. So on this one, the dark has already been filled all the way out to here, and now I'm working on filling the light side from out to here. That seam goes directly on the diagonal. Oftentimes when I'm doing regular string blocks, I'll place a strip on the diagonal, somewhat on the diagonal, and piece either side of the strip. So you don't really see that break at the true diagonal of the block. But on these ones you do, and it makes it really fun because any log cabin layout you can do with these blocks because they really are half square triangles. Does that sound like fun? Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to start to web this block, and then I'm going to check in my email. My phone's vibrating already, to see who's talking at me, what you're working on, and what we can share with each other. First things first. Gosh, I'm going to actually turn this camera down just a hair so you can see better. And it's going to be a little bit backwards for you because this is as if you're standing in front of me looking at what I am doing. What I have here, and I've explained this before, but it's always good for a recap, is I've got 4 blocks across, 4 blocks down, and what happens when we pick up pieces is crucial because the way that these are arranged, I can't mix them up. I want to build this block so that all of the units are connected to each other with chaining threads, and I want to leave the chaining threads in place so that none of these units gets turned around and out of order. And believe me, it's very easy for that to happen. Because we read left to right, we pick up a book, magazine, whatever it is, and our eyes automatically go to the far left. Most people are doing this. But in order to get my seam here, I would have to pick it up, turn it around, and sew it upside down on my sewing machine because that's the side that I want the stitching to happen, right? Are you in this category? If so, stop it. This is your chance to make a change. If I do this, I can't sew over here without turning it around. But what I want to do first is just leave this whole left side column, right side up, and I'm going to turn the page this way. If I start with the second column and I put the second column over the first, then this is exactly where my seam's going to happen, and it's going to go under the needle without anything being turned around. And I'll be able to chain my way from this one to this one to this one to this one in a chain, not cut the chaining threads, but open them back up. Pressing doesn't really have to happen yet because nothing's crossing anything. And I can then turn the page and take column 3 over column 2 and then column 4 over column 3. The whole block, even though there's 16 units in this block, will be held together by all of the chaining threads through the rows. So this is what I'm going to do. And I know my head's cut off, but this is the best way for you to see what I'm doing. Remember, we do this by laptop camera, so I don't have a fancy overhead thing to do. So I'm going to pick up these 2 units. I'm going to turn this page, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to sew it. I'm not pinning, I'm just matching the top of the unit and the bottom of the unit to each other. Okay, and I'm going to snip this off. This is my previous leader and ender. This is for another post because this one has bonus triangles. I actually did this one to do a post for the C&T blog, so I will let you know when you can view that as well, but we're just going to set that aside. Okay, so I'm going to continue on now. I'm not going to remove this from the machine. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to turn the page. The second unit in the second row is going to flip over the first because this is where I want the seam to happen, and it's going to go underneath the machine. Just match corner to corner, and sew. The wonderful thing about string blocks, I'm going to pick this one up also, do the same thing all the way down, is that there really are no seams to match. Being wonky is kind of part of the process. So there's 3, and this one over here. Now I've gone about as far as I can go on this block, and I don't want to remove it from the machine without something else ending up underneath the presser foot. I want to save as much thread as possible, and I want to stop bird's nests at the next seam. So what I'm going to do is take this block that's already going on, and I'm going to take this strip, and I'm going to add it to this neutral side of this already working on. Yes, I know my head's still cut off. And I'm just giving it an approximate seam allowance. And now I can remove my block. Okay, so we're chained this way so far, and I was pressing these every other direction, so I am just going to just finger press to get those seams out of my way, and I will do an iron press after a while, which reminds me to turn the iron on. Okay, and now, see, this is where we were. These are chained together, and you don't have to cut them apart. Remember, if you cut them apart, you're going to forget where they go, and you'll get them out of order. This stays together, and now I can take the third one and put it right sides together with the second one, this one here, and this one here, and work all the way down, and that's what I'm going to do. Now, I use this technique, I call this webbing. I'm sure I didn't invent it. I know I didn't invent it. I think I just gave it the name that it is known by. It's kind of like the person who invented the term fussy cut. I'm sure other people did fussy cut, but that person gave it a name that stuck. So this is webbing because of the threads that are in between. Do you hear how fast this machine runs? For the time that they were made, around 1956, 57, these were the fastest machines on the market, and they will do 1,200 stitches per minute. So they are very fast, almost faster than I want when I'm trying to be really accurate. Okay, and we're going to sew this one on here. At this point, because I don't want to just remove this from the machine, I'm going to grab my leader ender block back here, and I have my stitch length set pretty small. I think you can see that on there. Stitch length is pretty small because the smaller stitch makes the paper easier to remove. In fact, I have to thank the lovely quilter who sent me, for my birthday this past week, a whole box of Wisconsin phone books because she knows I'll use them. Okay, so here's a leftover quarter square triangle from our current On Ringo Lake project. Triangles are perfect for the corners of string blocks, so I'm going to just put this one right here. And now we are here. Let me just press these. My finger pressing is great until you're ready to sew the rows together, and then you can touch it with the iron first. I just push them that way to get them out of my way. So here we are so far. Can you see this on my quilt rack here? Looking pretty good. Nothing is out of order. There's 2 sets of chaining threads in between each row, and we're going to add the 4th column on. As I said, you can lay out an entire quilt. If I come down here, can you see me? You can lay out an entire quilt, block to block to block to block to block to block to block, no matter what size your blocks are. And if you assemble your quilt this way, the quilt will be assembled in rows across. So the rows across will all be completed, and each row is held to the next with chaining threads in between, so nothing gets turned around. Let's add this last column. So I'm going to take column number 4 and put it right sides together with column number 3. I figure this will either turn out to be the coolest project ever, or it will be butt ugly, which is, you know, it's garbage fabric, so. Okay, so sometimes things may get a little bit twisty, but I find the more units I have attached, the less twisty it gets. And then this one. And then this one. See how fast? Make sure that goes the correct way. Okay. Yes. And then I'm going to grab that little block that is now done. I'll give it an iron press, but now this one's ready for trimming, and I'm going to grab this other one and start a new block. I've already got some scraps ready here. I thought I did. Here's that pink. Here's that big pink one. So when I'm doing this, and it's a good thing we still have the no head, we're the headless quilter, but I want to put these right sides together with, I'm going to actually put the colored one on top, but I'm going to pre-measure first. That line is giving me my measurement, and I'm going to lay this down here Because long strips are kind of unwieldy, I like to do a little bit of pre-cutting, and then this little piece is going to be too small to save. This can go back in the string bin. Okay. Actually, then the neutral one goes on top, the colored one on the bottom. They're right sides together. Can you see that? And then I take this line, and I'm going to drop the line about, just visually, about 1/4 of an inch from the top of my strips here. So I'm just visually till I can see it's about 1/4 inch from the corners of the blocks. And once I have that in place, I can sew. Remember, you're sewing by the line, so your seam allowance is just suggested. Okay, get that on there. All right, so that's, oh no! Guess what? We're out of bobbin thread. Okay, so we're gonna tilt this back up because I want to talk to you while I am changing bobbin and doing this again. Let's see who's joining us. I'm going to my email. It's quiltville@gmail.com. You can drop me a picture, a note, whatever you want to. Here's Annika, who says birthday quilt, and she says, nice to see you live here in Sweden. The clock's around 7 o'clock in the evening, or 1900 hours. I'm working on a surprise birthday whole cloth quilt for my sister. Oops, I just spilled your beans. She's turning 50 on February 5th. I have only the filler work on the 2 outer borders left. I think I might get it done in time. The front side is light gray and the back is light purple, a whole cloth, beautiful. She says, thanks for taking time for Quilt-Cam. It feels like having a buddy when you're sewing. And she did send pictures. So let's see. Oh my goodness, Annika, that is just gorgeous. Okay, so I am going to see if I can get this little, that is very, whoops, very, very detailed. Can you see? Look at how gorgeous that is. She's been hand quilting that for her sister. She must have a wonderful sister, and don't we all wish we had a sister like that? That's just beautiful. Okay, I'm going to save that one. That's gorgeous. Susan Erler says, on Ringo Lake is done. She says, thanks for having Quilt-Cam today. I thought I was done with On Ringo Lake, but it turns out that I have 2 sashings that are turned wrong. So she's almost done. And so she sends her picture here. Come on, baby. Open up for mama. Okay, so here's Susan's. Can you find the sashings that are done the wrong way? I have loved seeing all of the On Ringo Lake quilts that are coming about. You guys have worked really hard. It's not an easy quilt. There's a lot of little pieces. If you take it one step at a time, you know, you get there. It's a lot of repetition, but boy, is it worth it. So this is my heads up for you, for those who have not done On Ringo Lake but are thinking of it. You can still get all of the parts under the free patterns tab at the top of, sorry, not the free patterns tab, the On Ringo Lake tab at the top of my blog until February 1st. That means January 28th, you need to have it printed, because by the time February 1st rolls around, it's going to be taken down and it will become a digital booklet. And I said, yes, booklet, because I am keeping, I've had so many requests with the previous mysteries that, well, I didn't get this hint and help in the pattern, and I really wanted you to see that option in the pattern, and can I have close-up photos of what that unit looks like at your machine and all the stuff. So this time it's a 20-page full color booklet as a PDF. So that will be in the Quiltville store starting February 1st. Be looking for a 25% off sale on all digital patterns on that day. So if there's a mystery from previous years that is a digital pattern and you missed it and you want it, 25% off all digital patterns starting February 1st. So that's beautiful. Let's check in on one more person here, and then I got to get a bobbin in this machine. That's beautiful. I love your colors. She says, boy, there's a lot of On Ringo Lakes in here. Working on this scrap quilt, says Lucille Smith, all from my stash. See the leftover blocks from En Provence? So she's got this on her design wall, and I recognize the En Provence units in there. Isn't that fun? Do you like to make quilts from leftover units and pieces and parts? I love to sew them into the backing of the current project so that I don't have to deal with them later. But sometimes the units are really fun. I've got a bunch of leftover hourglass units from last year's hourglass leader and ender challenge. They've got to go in something. Okay, and then that's just beautiful. Here's from Kathy Mackey. She says, I need this one done. Don't we all feel like that? She says, good afternoon. I need this one on the done pile soon, which is the Sister's Choice block quilt, but had to sew them up on a temporary, had to see them up on a temporary design wall to encourage me to finish. Take care, and thanks for allowing us to quilt along with you on Quilt-Cam today. So here's her photo. And my mom, okay, this is my mom. We're going to answer this phone. Hi, Mom.
Hello, sweetheart. Are you busy?
I actually am busy. I'm in the middle of doing a live Quilt-Cam on Facebook. You want to say hi to everybody?
Oh, golly. Oh, hello, everybody.
Can I call you back after I'm done here?
Oh, sure. I'd love it.
I would love love it too.
Chat.
Okay, love you too. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
Bye.
You never not answer your mom when she's calling because you never know what it's going to be, but that's fun. Okay, so Kathy's photo is right there. There is her Sister's Choice. Whoops, gotta move it this way. I forget things are in mirror image. So there's her Sister's Choice blocks. That is a super, super fun free pattern from the free patterns tab on the top of the blog, and the whole quilt is made with 2.5-inch strips. Even better than that, just like these little units I'm making now, which are not in the Sister's Choice quilt, but similar. You do stitch and flip corners on these in the Sister's Choice quilt, and you end up with all of these 2-inch unfinished size, so they finish at 1.5 inches. Bonus triangles. I am all about the bonus triangles. I think they are the biggest gift given to quilterhood. So check out the Sister's Choice pattern. Kathy, I can't wait for you to get that quilt done. And a little story on Kathy, because I was getting ready to give a lecture in Iowa at Retreat last year. That was last August, last July. Time just flies so fast. But I'm a little bit a ways away from the lobby, and I'm set up at the book signing table, and I look over across the lobby, and there is a profile I know. And it turned out to be Kathy's hubby. And it about had me in tears. They came all the way from Canada, from BC, from Victoria, in their motorhome, all the way to Iowa to I guess we were one of the stops on many stops along their way. But Kathy got to retreat with us, and it was just wonderful to see them. The people, no matter how much we love the quilts and the everything, the people are the absolute best thing about quilting. Don't you agree? Thank you, Kathy. That's just beautiful. Okay, so we have, you're cracking up my husband, says Kathy Bennett. Okay. My husband overheard your comments on having bits and pieces and bins of scraps. He said, now I know where you get this from. She's a crack up. Oh, that's funny. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, let's get this bobbin, because I'm air sewing here, changed. And at least I was able to wind a few extra bobbins just in case. I usually tend to wind, when I run out, I'll wind 4 or 6, and then when I run out, then I clean the machine and then wind 4 or 6 more. I can see that there's some lint in there that I missed. Okay, bobbin in. Come on. Are you stuck? It's stuck. Of course, if it's going to stick, it's going to be while I'm on Quilt-Cam. I don't think I had the thread in correct, or it got caught under that little flap. Okay, in. There it is. Nope. Come on. There it is. Okay. Now, because I don't want to get lost on these, I need to double check this, and it was just the last 2, so I'm good to here. Get rid of a lot of this extra thread. I don't like all of these tails. And we'll pick up where we left off. Move that over. And this one. And then this one. Okay, so this whole block is assembled in rows across. And we're going to do this again. The light one is on the top, on the leader ender square, or when you're doing these half dark, half light string. The light one is on the top so that you are pressing towards the dark, not the dark pressing towards the light. I just like it that way. I like things to press to the dark. So start with your light strip on top. And again, I'm just aiming for somewhat of a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm watching the line that's on my paper, and I'm sewing from the paper side first so I can sew on the line. That way I know that it's the true diagonal. Just like when you're paper piecing, you want it to be accurate. Okay, so I'm getting going there. And I'm aiming for somewhat of a 1/4 inch, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is I sew on the line. Okay, we got that done now. Okay, so back where we were. The whole block. I'm just going to do this out that way. So I'm doing these in, out, in, out. So up, down, up, down. Okay, and if I had a lot of time, I don't think you need to watch me pressing. I'm just going to finger press this one. Things that I am absolutely loving. Birthday things for myself. I don't know if you can read this. It says the Paca pressing mat. Can you see that? Paca pressing mat. This is a made in the USA product. It's made in Columbia, Missouri. It's I'll put the information on my website because there's no email address on this tag. But this is what it looks like. This mat is made with alpaca fur or hair or wool, whatever they call it. It's kind of thick, feels really good. I have had the most awesome time pressing on this alpaca mat because it absorbs moisture through the air like wool will. And when you press, even with a dry iron, the heat goes all the way through and is reflected back up by the fur, hair, wool, whatever it is. And it's like pressing your units from both sides. So my string blocks, which tend to be a little bit on the lumpy side because there's so many seam allowances, are coming out so super flat. Now, if you're using steam, if you're a steam person, you'll probably want to put something underneath this because it's only, what, maybe 1/3 of an inch thick, okay? But I find if I just missed with a spray bottle, which is over out of reach right now, if I put my block down and just miss the top of the block with a spray bottle, it doesn't go all the way through, the steam doesn't go all the way through like an iron that is heavily steaming wood and might come out on the back. So if you have this on a wooden surface, be careful. I've got this on a Formica surface over here, so it's safe. I love this. I also love that it fits in the Ziploc bag, which is going to make it, and it's so lightweight that this can pop in my suitcase and travel with me for hotel sewing, for retreat sewing, for whatever it is. And I just love these. So no affiliation. I don't carry these in the Quiltville store or anything. They'd be too expensive to ship because they're a very odd size. You're not going to get a flat rate priority envelope that's going to fit this. But I will put the website on the blog. They're made in the USA and it's alpaca. So it's fun to have something that's just a little bit different. Okay, so we'll just set that there. And all I need to do now that this is all webbed together is just fold one row over the other. And I'm going to oppose my seams. And no, I'm not pinning. This is a string quilt. It's supposed to be a little bit improv. Resist the urge to pin absolutely everything. And I'm just holding those seams nested together. And then I'm going to sew to the nested seam and then nest the next seam and sew to the nested seam. And then nest the next one. And then sew to the end. If you have any problems with one layer being longer than the other by the time you're done sewing, it's because you didn't hold the edges even when you were sewing. So I make sure I'm even at the beginning, I make sure I'm even at the end, and in between I nest seams and sew to the nested seam. I am a very minimal pinner unless I need to be matching points, in which case you can't have enough pins. Okay, so because I sewed this one, I had it light side up, paper on top. When I turn it this way, I'm going to be pressing to the dark side. And I've tried to have at least 3 strips on each triangle. So sometimes that means I have to place the next piece a little bit down from the top of that pink one. You see the blue one's a little bit down. That'll fold up and then I'll have a corner piece. It just looks better to me if there's at least 3 pieces per side. Okay, I'm going to press this quickly and then we'll go back to the emails. But see how fun that is? Okay. I'm not using any steam, but the heat is coming back at me from the underside. And I'm using just a down pressing motion, but look how nice and flat. I mean, it is flat. Even here where all the bulky seams are. That's the Paca pressing mat. I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, one more seam, just because I have to, and then we'll take somebody else's email. What you can't see, because this machine didn't have a foot pedal, is that I have stolen the foot pedal from my cheddar featherweight, and I'm using it on this machine. So if you look under the desk, here's this foot pedal that's about school bus color. I love it. Okay, so these are going opposing directions, and I just oppose the seam, and once it's locked together, I just hold it there with my fingers. And usually it's a 2-finger hold, so I've got my right hand in front of the presser foot holding that down, and then about a little bit away on the next to the foot pedal, I'm holding in 2 places, and that gives less shift. Okay, so here we are, the nest, and you can feel that when that nested seam falls into place, you just kind of feel the speed bumps lock with each other. And I sew to that nest, and then align the bottom edge, make sure they're even, and don't let go. And there's that seam. Okay. On this one, there's a little bit extra, and I'm going to trim this. And I know I'm doing a lot of talking today. I'm not doing a lot of reading today. There's just a lot I want to share with you. Okay, so one more corner can cover that. And I just trimmed the excess away, too small to keep into the email. Okay, so we've got today, that's too funny, Kathy. Thank you, thank you. Annika sent a clarification. She thinks that's important. She says, I made the whole cloth birthday party quilt on my FOF. Okay, so it's machine quilted. And here I thought it was hand quilted. You know, you could have just let me think that and I would have even been more impressed. It doesn't mean you love your sister any less, but it was even more impressive. She's been quilting that on her FOF, Expression 4.0. So if you have that machine, yes, you can machine quilt on that. This one is Lisa. She says Quilt-Cam on 28th of January. She's Lisa from sunny South Africa here. Great to finally catch Quilt-Cam this year so far. So it amazes me what we can do with the internet. We've got South Africa tuning in. That is just amazing. One of the places on my bucket list, I need to visit South Africa. She says, I'm working on my hexies and cutting out my hexie papers. The hexie side is 1 inch, and I'm using 2.5-inch squares to cover the hexie paper. So she's got a picture here of her project box. If I turn it sideways, will it get big? Sometimes it does, yes. Okay. And it just makes it easier for you guys to see. So there is her project box, and you can get a whole lot done with just an easy project box. She's got hexie papers she's printed. She's cutting those out. It's leisure time. You can go faster and buy them pre-cut, but sometimes it's just great to print them and cut them whatever size that you want. And she's got her fabrics and her papers for her project. So happy that South Africa's tuning in with us. Lois. Where is Lois? Okay, Lois from Groveland School. So this is a long time story. I went to first grade and kindergarten at Groveland School in Minnetonka, Minnesota, and I've told this before, and it's on the blog, so you can Google Groveland School, and you'll likely come up to the story if you in the search bar if you put Groveland, one word, school. But Lois was my kindergartner teacher. She was my kindergarten teacher, and I spent some time with her in Minnesota when I was teaching there last year. So. Really fun. She says the Super Bowl is in Minneapolis next weekend and has the theme of Bold North. I'm kicking off Super Bowl week by working on a quilt with fabrics from the movie Frozen. Perfect. It should be Cold North, not Bold North. That's being Bold North. And Lois, oh Lois, it's so great to see you. I'm going to biggie size this just a little bit to share you. You are such a sweet lady, and I'm so happy that you are still in my life. So there's my kindergarten teacher, Lois, with her project with the fabrics frozen. Isn't that just awesome? Lois, in 1967, which is when I would have been in kindergarten, because I was born in 62. How old were you? Were you like barely out of college at this time? You know, maybe in your early 20s, because it's just too fun having you still in my life. I love this. I just love this. That's a photo to save. Okay, and this one, Sparky says she's treadling away on Ringo Lake on her pretty 15-90 with bow tie leaders and enders. I love the piece she brings me, and she's got her photo here, and that one should turn. Sometimes if it's embedded photo, it doesn't like to turn, but there we go. So she's treadling away on her class 15 Singer. There's her on Ringo Lake on the turntable pressing mat, and she's making bow ties as her leaders and enders. How awesome! What an awesome day. I've really enjoyed our weekend, middle of the afternoon Quilt-Cam opportunities. It makes me feel like I'm getting away with something that I shouldn't be able to. Oh, that's also pink. I'm looking for something I have not used yet here. What do we have? How about purple? I think that will work. These little cut-off corners. In fact, I received a birthday card from a quilter from Emily, who I've nicknamed Auntie M, because she's about the age of my aunties, and I would like to have her to be my auntie. And her birthday card, instead of confetti, contained all of these cut off dog ears, and was like, yay! And they went right into the crumb piecing box. Okay. So now, without cutting anything apart, we've got three rows joined together, and we're going to press it on the lovely alpaca pressing mat. I love this thing. It's going in my suitcases. If my suitcase were overweight, I'd leave behind the socks and take the pressing mat. I also love the size. It's 15 by 15. So it's just a great size. So now we are pressed flatter than flat, just flatter than flat, no steam needed. If you live in a really dry climate and there's no humidity to be absorbed from the air, it would be really easy to keep a spray bottle of just plain water next to your ironing surface. I would not use like Best Press or flatter or any of that stuff that's going to put chemicals and maybe scents and dyes and other stuff into the mat, but just plain water, just some simple water will give you the flattest blocks you've ever had. Okay, so I am nesting the seams, and some of these blocks have the seams pointed up towards the needle, so I'm just making sure that they get tucked down or stay up. And this goes here. So you're always working a few inches ahead of yourself when you're sewing, so you make sure that you're getting that seam nested, and once you feel that pop into place, just hold it there. And I do the 2-finger hold, and then match the next one or the edge of the block, and sew. Now this side is done. So there's my 3 pieces, and now I'm switching over to the light side. You can see that I've got just a little bit of margin all the way around the paper, and that'll allow me to scoot the ruler up or down when it comes to trimming, so that if in case I fell short anywhere, I can make up for it. Let's grab a light something. Okay. Don't need that much of that one. So the crumb bin, this is all the triangles and small parts I've been using on the corners of the blocks because I may need longer pieces for the center of the block, and those have been coming from other places. One of the other things that I do, I'll tell you after I press this. Wacky block. Done. You see how flat? Flat. Flat is good. Okay. How many of you have cats? Big hint. If you have Amazon Prime, order your cat litter from Amazon and have it delivered to your door. I swear, it's like the best service for cat litter. But I love the boxes, and I clean them. We clean these out after the cat litter's gone. This is the bucket that stays next to my cutting table. And all of the strings from cutting other things, actually I have 2 of these. I have one at my cutting table, and one by the AccuQuilt, because sometimes when I cut things with the AccuQuilt, I'm left with a margin, such as this, and into the string bucket it goes. Anything less than 3/4 of an inch goes to the trash. But if I end up with something that's, you know, not quite 1.5 inches after cutting strips, in it goes. The bucket makes it really easy to just grab and take it wherever I'm string piecing. But if you are a cat lover and you're hauling home 40-pound buckets of cat litter from the store, and you have Amazon Prime, they will deliver to your door. You've already paid for that. Okay. I love that. Thanks, Robin. So we have Pat Dodd, who says, forgot the picture. And here's her picture. Oh, cute. Oh, cute, cute, cute. So Pat Dodd is making this quilt. And now I'll have to go further down into the email and find the story. That looks great. Pat, what's the story? So I'm going to go find her missing email. There she is. My snowman block swap. The blocks from this quilt came from a block swap in 2015. Finally becoming a quilt this year. Awesome. Taking it to Florida for the winter. I will miss you by 3 days in Florida. We are wintering in Daytona Beach shores. Hope to catch you this summer in Louisville. I hope so too. She's from Cincinnati, so to all the other Cincinnati quilters out there, big hello. Travel safe, Pat. And I'm sorry to miss you, but hopefully we will catch you in Louisville. I'm doing a retreat, and you can find out more about that retreat by contacting the Cozy Quilter in Louisville. All of the information is under the links and the contact people are under my calendar of events tab at the top of my blog. Okay, that is gorgeous. I love that. And the names always catch me. So this gal's name on her email is Just Coffee. She says, on a rainy Saturday in Tennessee, getting ready to quilt this monstrous beast on my itty bitty sewing machine. Wish me luck. She may need more coffee. Oh my goodness sakes, it's her on Ringo Lake. Oh, you can do this. You can do this. There she is. So she's got her small machine, but if you take it a little bit at a time, and if I were working with this, I would start from the center and work one way and then turn it and work from the center out the other way, and I would probably stabilize in between the blocks because shift happens. But that's gorgeous. I love your colors. That green, I'm going to biggie size so you can see her colors just a little bit better. She's got those gorgeous rusty oranges and forest greens there. Just beautiful. You can do this. We're all cheering you on. Okay. And Jean Venencia says, hello from Plymouth, Massachusetts. I probably massacred that name. Venezia or Zia or yes, she says, an early trip to IKEA, and now I'm making a bookcase for scrap storage while watching you live. Oh my goodness sakes. She's busy with the hex wrench. See if I can, oh, there we are on IKEA. Yep, we love to hate it. Love the product. Hate the assembly. My life in a flat pack box. Okay, very, very fun. Okay, and Judy Reed says, what I'm working on, Christmas star quilt. This is on my design wall, and during Quilt-Cam, I'll be picking it up in rows to web it together. And she's in Quebec. And here's her stars. So she's already got it on her design wall. When she picks it up in rows, leave the farthest left row right side up and put the second column, you know, we're talking rows, but actually we're talking columns up and down. Second column right side to the first, so that you will sew all the way down those. And then it's a matter of picking up column number 3 and sewing those all the way down, and then column number 4, sewing all those down. By the time you're done, you'll have the entire top webbed. Now, let's say that this entire top needs to be sewn on a very small sewing machine, like a featherweight or a small Janome. You can, once it's webbed, not before, but once it is all the way webbed, then you can cross cut between the stitching. You can cut your chaining threads, leave row 1 already connected to row 2, okay? One side over the other, and sew that. So now row 1 and row 2 are connected. Then go back to the mothership and trim between row 4 and 5. So now row 3 and row 4 are still connected together. Sew those together, press, and then add 3 and 4 to 1 and 2. So you're only cutting apart what you need to continue sewing, but you're not running the risk of turning a row upside down. Don't cut every single row apart. There's no need to. Cut every other row, sew those together in pairs, and then join them to each other, and you will divide and conquer and have that quilt put together in no time. Okay, so who else do we have here? That's beautiful, Judy. Love it. We got all kinds of stuff, but we've got Frank from Germany, and he says, Irish chain and Mrs. Picasso. That's that subject line that's going to get me every time. He says, thank you for an after-dinner quilt cam here in Germany. I'm busy quilting on my Irish chain on my new Janome 8900. Ooh, he's moved up in the world. What happened to the vintage machines, Frank? He says, hubby watches me quilting and says, but you already have a lot of those blankets. That's the worst thing a spouse can ever say about a quilt, is to call it a blanket. Unless he really likes to needle you, in which case I'd say he did it on purpose just to see if he could get your dander up. He said, I'm pretty sure Mrs. Picasso said something similar about painting when she saw her husband Pablo sitting down with his easel and brushes. Thank you for everything you give to quilters all over the world. Best wishes from Germany, Frank. And there we are. Oh, he's doing exactly what our very small on Ringo Lake quilter person was doing. I'm going to biggie this just a little bit. So he's got his new machine. That's the Janome 8900. Lots of bells and whistles there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this one also has a USB port for charging your phone. Pretty cool. Okay. But he's working by rolling that up, and you work 1/2 Start at the middle, work out this way, and then go the other way. And if you can stabilize things in between the blocks, whoops, we lost it there, then I really need to stop moving this around, but working mirror images just freaks me out. Okay, but you can do this. You can quilt a large quilt on a home machine. Notice I said quilt, not blanket. Okay, thanks, Frank. It's great to see you. Wonderful to see what he's working on. He's got beautiful, gorgeous vintage machines too. But when it comes to the machine quilting, sometimes having that thread cutter, if you need to stop and start and not have trailing threads, and the light and the phone charger are what you need. Sometimes specialty stitches. So just because you love vintage machines doesn't mean you can't have one with all the bells and whistles. Over here, I've got my big Janome as well. This one says, what is your process for cutting the phone book pages to desired size? Oh, it's really high tech. Really, really high tech. I have an old rotary cutter that after a blade is not good enough for cutting fabric, I save used blades, and those will go into the old rotary cutter for paper. And I use a rotary ruler, and I cut through about 10 pages at a time, whatever size that I want. It's really high tech. I have had some people say, well, just take it to an office supply store and have them cut the size that you need. I don't know what size that I need, and I do all different sizes, and I don't want to store things in certain sizes. I'd rather leave the phone book whole in case I need a different size. And it's no effort to just pull a stack of pages out all at once, line up my rotary ruler, and away I go. How's that? Okay. Easy, easy, easy. So we've got here, Colleen says, what I'm sewing. Colleen in North Carolina on my on Ringo Lake is at the Long Armors. Hooray. I hope to have it when you visit Forsyth Piecers and Quilters next month. I get to teach for a local guild. I'm so excited. I get to stay in my own bed and see them on 2 days. Yay. I'm currently binding a coffee table runner I made for Project Quilting Season 9, Challenge 2, Triangulation. It's due by 1 p.m. tomorrow to be eligible for prizes. And there's nothing that will spur you on like the possibility of prizes. So that's from Colleen, and she's included, here she is working on her binding. I can spy some little Wonder Clips there, or Unwonder Clips if they are a different brand. And you can get this binding done. It's a table runner or wall hanging. You can get this done. Put on some good chick flick. What I ended up watching last night that I hadn't seen in years and years and years. Breakfast at Tiffany's. What a classic, funny movie. And pretty riveting for its time in the, what was it, 1960s. You know, it was on the edge of, can we really do this in a movie? And yes, they did. And it was just a fabulous movie. I love it. I love the ending. If you haven't seen Breakfast at Tiffany's in a while, it's a great one to stitch to, especially if you're doing handwork. Okay, come on, phone. There we are. And that is really pretty, Colleen. I love it. And your kitty, too. Here's Patty Bertrand, who says UFOs. Thank you for taking time to do Quilt-Cam before you go to Florida. Oh, you guys, my house is an absolute wreck. Absolute wreck. The suitcase is packed. The quilts are partially packed and are spread out all over the living room. There's dishes in the sink in the kitchen. There's mail order stuff all over the dining room table. And my friend Jen, who's a realtor, is coming over after Quilt-Cam so I can help her with the tension on her featherweight. And you know what? A realtor doesn't need to see my house upside down. Not that my house is for sale, but she sees gorgeous houses all day long. And this is a 1970s bungalow that's almost too small. So Jen, just don't pay attention. She says, I'm looking forward to taking 2 classes with you in May in New Hampshire. May, beautiful New Hampshire. It's listening to your lecture. These are just some UFOs I'm working on. I've got my whole house torn apart, reorganizing my sewing room and living room, and just a relaxing, fun day. But now I'm taking Bonnie time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, this is gorgeous. This is beautiful. So she's putting together this block, and I know it's the long way, and maybe you can't read what it says in the fussy cut center. It says, be the reason someone smiles today. Isn't that great? I love that. And then she's doing some other fun little stuff. Oh, this is gorgeous. So she's putting together, that's the problem with deciding to clean out and reorganize your sewing space, is you find all of these projects and it's like, oh, well, this only takes just a few more seams. And pretty soon you're at the machine and you're not reorganizing your stuff. Gorgeous. I love it, Patty. I'll see you soon. Amy Sheridan says, On Ringo Lake is underway. Working on clue number 4 while you're keeping me company on my iPad. I love the strings you are doing. And Amy, I had fun spending with in San Diego while I was down there. And so there's her pieces and parts by her Bernina, and she's got Quilt-Cam going on her iPad. Remember that all of the previous Quilt-Cams are available. Just go hit the On Ringo Lakes tab at the top of my blog, and you'll find a backwards listing. So it starts with the most recent one, and it goes all the way back down to the very beginning when we first started them. There's a little synopsis next to the date for each one that kind of tells you what machine I'm sewing on, what I'm making, and you can just also flip through that post and see what else I shared about what others were working on during that post. The blog post will always give you background information on what's happening on that quilt camp. So that's the best place to view those. And what am I doing right now? Our hour is up. And my friend Jen is on her way. And I've got to finish packing. And there's laundry in the washing machine. And it's kind of crazy. But you want to see something extra cute? You might get a little bit dizzy, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Whoops. There's that Sadie girl. Looks like I lulled her right to sleep. Is Quilt-Cam over, Sadie? Should we be done now? Poor thing. Okay. So our next Quilt-Cam, I'm not sure yet. My February is kind of crazy. It's mostly going to be driving trips because February weather in North Carolina is very iffy and you never know if you can fly out or if things will be canceled other places. So I don't schedule anything north in the winter months. But I'm driving down to South Carolina and I am driving to Virginia. I'll be in the Fredericksburg area and I'll be in the Lynchburg area. So hopefully I'll be seeing you Virginia quilters and those South Carolina quilters in the month of February. And then the 28th of February, I fly off to teach an empty spool seminar at Asilomar outside of Pacific Grove, Pacific Grove, California. Monterey area. My dad used to live there when I was an early married gal, and I had I think we had Jason at the time that my dad lived there. Anyway, gorgeous area. Looking forward to posting from there. Keep up with my Instagram, my Facebook, and my blog, and you'll always know what's going on. I will post when the next Quilt-Cam is going to be. Hopefully before I head off to Asilomar, sometime in February. If it's still early where you are and you're just in the middle of a project and you're just catching your stride, you don't have to stop just because Quilt-Cam is ending. Keep sewing. Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's a great one. Put it on Netflix if you've got it. I look forward to spending more time with you. And until then, we'll catch you through social media and the blog. Have a lovely day, everybody. Bye-bye.